Okay, I am delighted to introduce you to Pam Castellana. She is here. She is our Vice Chair of Democratic Executive Committee Engagement for the Florida Democratic Party, and she is also one of our representatives to the DNC. And so give a warm welcome to Pam Castellana.
So I know y'all don't really want to see me, and so if you really want to get a picture taken with Alex, you can slip up, but come right back, okay? So thank you, Michelle. Thanks for inviting me up, and for everybody else for being here tonight. First, before I even get into what I normally talk about, Republicans and NPAs in the room, thank you, because the reality is your government's letting you down too. Where I live, I held a town hall in my county last year, and I asked the Republicans in the room, just come back. Don't get your picture taken and leave. Y'all come back. Like, I'll come hound you. We know where to find you. So, and we reminded the Republicans in the room, they probably hadn't heard from their Republican elected people unless they wrote a big check. Is that not true? So thank you, and you're welcome in this space, and you don't have to change your party registration. Just vote for the person that's actually representing you, which, by the way, is our people. Anyway, so background to me and why I'm here. I'm here because Michelle invited me, and I go anywhere Michelle ever asks. She's like one of the best chairs in the state. 7 years ago, I was the average voter, and I knew nothing. I didn't know the difference in Congress and State House. I didn't know there was a state Senate, just reality. And so I would have thought everybody running for Senate, I thought we have a lot of people running for Senate when I would hear about different state Senate roles. And that was who I am, and I'm a well-educated woman in Florida. But when Trump got elected, I said, I've got to do something. And I had knocked a lot of doors for Obama, so I knew how that worked. I'm kind of cutting things a little bit short here. So I live in Brevard County. Does anybody know anything about Brevard County? Randy Fine lives in Brevard County. The sheriff that said if you throw a rock at us, I'm going to kill you graveyard dead, 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 because one dead isn't enough. Brevard County. A Moms for Liberty was born. Brevard County. So that's where I live, but I didn't know how much worse it was than anywhere else in the state. And I've lived in Florida since 1969. So when I got involved with our local Dems, I saw a group of people committed to getting Democrats elected. And I said, okay, this I'll give my time to. I didn't want to just sit around and complain about Republicans. I can do that every single night at home. But I found a group of people that were going to get Democrats elected. And I learned how to do that in my county. So I was the chair for the Brevard Democrats from 2020 to 2024. I've been involved with the politics for 3 years, so I thought, I know what I'm doing. So we did actually, in that 4 years, we got 43 Democrats elected in Brevard County. We had 84% Democratic turnout in 2024, and we held Donald Trump to a 2-point gain in our county. And that wasn't from 91 to 93. In 2020, he got 57% of the vote in my county, and in 2024, he got 59. And the statewide shift was more like 10 points to the right. Some of our counties went 15. We were the largest mid-sized county to hold Trump to that kind of result. So I thought every county was doing the same work that we were doing, and because we did it very simply. We really just worked on the ground. Michelle has taken what we did and elevated a little bit with her town halls, like so good. And I met with our state chair, and I said, I think that you think all the counties know how to do what they're doing. And the reason you think that is because they're not telling you they don't, because they don't know that they don't, because they're just doing what the last guy did. Anybody know the story about the woman in the roast? You know, a couple got married, and they were making a roast, and she cut off the ends off the roast, and her husband said, why do you do that? And she said, I don't know, because my mother did. So she called her mother, said, Mom, why did we cut the ends off the roast? And her mother said, I don't know, your grandmother did. So they called her grandmother, and they said, Granny, why do you cut the ends off the roast? And she said, so it would fit in the oven. And so often around the state, we had counties just doing what had always been done because they didn't know any better. And actually, that was my one gift. So when Chair Freed, we started the year last year, and I was only going to be the chair for 1 year for my county. I wanted my life back, so she instead made me a vice chair. Like Alex said, I ended up in Florida. She made me a vice chair for DEC engagement. And my role is to work with all of our counties, first of all, to make sure that every single one of our 67 counties in the state has a Democratic Executive Committee. We've chartered 3 this year. We've got 6 more to go. And that they know how to win elections. I mean, call me crazy, but isn't that what we're here for? And it's so funny because like some of these counties are those little red counties that we've forgotten in the past. And I want to tell you, in 2008, my county, again, Brevard County, which we lovingly call hell. In 2008, does anybody remember how early they called the Obama election? 10 o'clock. Do you know why? I mean, Hawaii had not even closed their polls yet. They called it because they called Florida because Brevard County lost less badly than expected. True. We didn't even win. But we had overperformed, and that's what all of you in our red spaces have to know. Every single vote is that critical to our statewide wins. Critical. We have smaller counties. Our smallest county, our lowest turnout in 2024, was the county that didn't have a Democratic Executive Committee. Their turnout was 34%. They didn't have mail ballots. They had mail ballots in the hands of 11% of their voters. And we can see that correlation directly across the state. So anyway, what am I here for? I am here, I've got my quote, I am here at the request of your DEC chair, who truly, like she is, I don't have favorites, but if I did, it would be Michelle Jennings. And everybody knows it. There's one other, like down south, I really like him too, and I like my chair. But like Michelle could ask me to, come paint walls, and I would do it. And my role is to support all of our candidates in our job, which is to turn Democrats out. If you don't love Alex Vindman, cool. It's the same work. It doesn't matter which candidates you do. I'm here to support all of our candidates because our job is to do that, is to get Democrats to vote. 84% turnout says something, right? And we do it like it's the gross, unsexy work. Why do Democrats not vote? Anybody know? Why do we not win? Because we don't vote. And also, we're very impatient. When we were for the last half, Florida, people talk about Florida being written off because, they've got 1.5 million more voters than we do. Let me just remind you that we had 1.5 million more voters than they did when they gained control of all 3 branches of government. We don't need that voter advantage. We didn't take advantage of it when we had it. What happened was we were super excited about our sexy president. The White House drew our attention, and we didn't pay attention to what was happening locally. I have a bottle of water somewhere. I'm going to pull in Alex here. Sorry. Ha ha. Thanks, guys. What was I saying? Oh, Republicans, Democrats run and we quit. We run and we win and we quit. We run and we lose and we quit. Either way, we quit. We stop talking to our neighbors. We get back to our lives. Republicans, while we had control of this state, anybody remember when Democrats ran this state? And Republicans would run and lose and run and lose and run and lose until they started winning. So that's step one. We have to be a lot more patient. We have to continue to do in the face of what seems to be overwhelming opposition, we have to continue to do our work. When we don't, we hand our country to Donald Trump and Ashley Moody. So that's one. And also because Democrats don't vote because they don't know there's an election. I will tell you, I voted in every election I knew happened. Well-educated woman who cared about policy. I probably didn't vote every time my polls were open. I probably didn't even know there was an election except for the presidential elections. And I'm who you think, I'm the person that you think knows everything. I mean, I do now. But for real, like the person behind the door, your neighbor, doesn't know there's an election this fall with critical things on the line. And that's not their fault. That's ours, right? You have Ron DeSantis as a governor because in 2018, he got an average of 1 vote per precinct more than Andrew Gillum. 1 vote, not 1 percentage point, 1 vote per precinct. Gets better. You have Rick Scott as a senator because in 2018, he got an average of less than 1 vote per precinct. Now, how many of you think in this room alone, there are enough people in this room to make sure that doesn't happen again, right? It just takes knocking on doors and letting people know there's an election. These are the people we hope you'll vote for. Can we get you a mail ballot? And why we're doing that is because, oh, by the way, I wanted to elaborate on a point that Alex made when he was talking about billionaires paying their fair share, because I want you to have the actual talking point to that. Because people say, well, Donald Trump paid $1 million. And he did. He paid $1 million in taxes in 2020 on $24 million worth of income. His effective tax rate in 2020 was 4%. Yours, if you make $100,000 a year, was 15. If he paid 15% of his actual income in 2020, that would have been $6 million. That would have made a little bit of a difference in our federal deficit, right? And if you look at all the billionaires in the country, their effective tax rate is 3%. That's what we mean by fair share. Yeah, they paid $1 billion. You know what they would have paid if they were you? Right? Okay, back to that. So we're doing mail ballots, and the reason we're talking about mail ballots is I knew nothing. I was just like, well, it looks like it worked here. In 2024, I looked at our county, and 98% of the Democrats that had a mail ballot voted in 2024. 50% of the Democrats that did not have a mail ballot voted in 2024. So when I mentioned that to somebody on the staff, by the way, I'm a volunteer, but somebody on staff, he did some research and he said, guess what? 67 counties, it's about the same. 98% of the Democrats that had mail ballots across the state voted. 50% of the Democrats that did not have a mail ballot voted. Why do you think that makes a difference? The chair over here. Yes, it's awareness. Because again, I didn't know, but if you have a mail ballot, you're going to get a sample ballot, you're going to get a mail ballot, you're going to get a call from me, you're going to get a text from me, I'm going to knock on your door, and as soon as you vote, I stop bugging you. So if you don't have a mail ballot, you'll get a sample ballot if you're an active voter. You might also know in 2022, I don't know if y'all know this, but the Republicans in the state are assholes. So they made it harder to get a mail ballot. And if you are used to voting in Florida before 2022, anybody? If you ever voted by mail, you immediately got a mail ballot. Do you know how there are a lot of people that don't know that that's no longer the case? And they're not getting a mail ballot, so they don't know there's an election because they're used to voting when they got a mail ballot. They're now expired every 2 years. December 31st, every mail ballot in the state is expired. December, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add something. My signature was challenged by the local board of elections, and I think a lot of people didn't see the notice in the mail. So I think it behooves everybody. You go check and see that you're still on file, because I had to go into the office and re-sign it.
Yeah.
Doesn't even look like my signature.
Part of the reason, I'll talk about signatures really quickly for a second. A lot of people register to vote or update their registration at their driver's license office. And let me ask you, how many of you sign a legible signature on one of those electronic pads, right? And that's the signature that the supervisor of elections now has. So that's why that happens sometimes. But just in general, just an actual fact, 98% of the Democrats with a mail ballot voted. 50% of Democrats without a mail ballot voted. There's people that say, I'm going to vote in person. I always vote in person. I vote in person all the time. I don't want a mail ballot. Don't look at me. 50% of them vote. Wow. And so when they made voters inactive, they did that in 2022. They made that, it's so easy to be an inactive voter now. So if you didn't vote in 2020 because there was a pandemic, and if you didn't vote in 2022 because it was a midterm year, you are now an inactive voter. Do you know what happens if you're an inactive voter? You don't get a sample ballot. And if you then didn't get a sample ballot in 2024, so you didn't vote in 2024 because you didn't realize there was an election, and if you don't vote in 2026 because it's a midterm year and you didn't realize there's an election, you're going to be purged from the voter rolls. That's what's happening in Florida right now. I tell you, they're very patient. So the easiest way to make a voter active, who can tell me other than Michelle? Voting is, if they can still vote if they know there's an election, and that will immediately make them active. There's an easier way to get a voter to be an active voter. Have them fill out a mail ballot request form. As soon as they've requested a mail ballot, they're made active, which means they're going to get that sample ballot. They're going to get that mail ballot. They're going to know without a doubt there's an election. They're going to know who the Democrats are in partisan races. It's our job to make sure they know who the Democrats are everywhere. Yes, ma'am.
In 2024, I had a bad accident in October. If I did not have a mail-in ballot, I wouldn't have been able to go and vote in person.
Thank you.
I wasn't able to vote.
So I was texting, and when my role as the chair of the county, we were texting every voter that hadn't yet voted about 4 days before the election. And one woman said, my family and I were on vacation, and my mother had to go straight from the airport to the hospital. Can she still vote? And I said, does she have a mail ballot? And she said, unfortunately, no. I said, then no, she can't vote. There was no way to get her a ballot. And she said, if I have to rent a medical transport van, she's going to vote. But not everybody has that power, right? So, and snowbirds too. Now, unfortunately, we're already out of snowbird season, which is why we're doing this as a state party year-round. Like, we're going to start talking to voters in January to get mail ballots back in their hands. Snowbirds don't necessarily know there's an election in August. And that's more than a partisan primary. If you're a non-party voter or a Republican voter, you can't vote in our partisan primary, which is a whole other conversation. But you can vote in your school board elections, which is why I don't call the August election a primary. I call it a school board election. It's your August elections. And if we keep talking about being a primary, that NPA voter doesn't show up to vote. And our snowbirds don't know there is one if we haven't gotten them a mail ballot. Our snowbirds also won't be back before the November election. If we haven't gotten them a mail ballot, they can't vote. Yes, ma'am.
If I could just step back for a second. I went into our supervisor of elections office last week because I've been an independent and I wanted to change to a Democrat.
Welcome.
I support the Democrats more anyway, but I asked about the mail request to be on a mail ballot sheet list, and I was told that fill it out, but hand deliver it back to the
Okay.
supervisor's office, because our mail in St. Augustine goes to Jacksonville
Yeah.
and doesn't always come back in
Great point. How many Democrats do you have in this county, Michelle? Anybody know? I'll bet you know. I knew he'd know. How many? 65. He's my data guy. So 65,000 Democrats. Guess what? They're not all in this room. So how are they going to know this? We got to tell them. So one thing we do is we start contacting our voters that have a mail ballot. I'm getting really in the weeds, but on the day mail ballots go out, we start contacting all the Democrats that have a mail ballot and saying, mail it in. And about 2 weeks before, we say, don't mail it in, hand deliver it. And honestly, just get it in. They have to be received by 7 o'clock on election day in Florida. Mail ballots start getting counted as they're received, actually, wherever the polling closes. They are counted in Florida as they are received, but they are not counted after 7 o'clock. You cannot turn a mail ballot in after the polls close on election day in Florida. It will not count.
I want to also let people know that the SOE here is awesome, and Palm Coast too, and you can check online to make sure that your mail ballot.
So everybody can do that. So I'm going to get into some of the objections before I start talking about how we do what we do. I've got my little cheat sheet up here. So objections people give you. What do you think people are going to say when you say, hey, have you gotten your mail ballot request in yet? I vote in person. I love voting in person. I do too. By the way, nobody in this room should vote in person. Susanna's going to tell you, the minute you get your mail ballot, you send it in with her name checked. Because that candidate now doesn't have to go back and change that vote. But the person at the door, I'm like, I do too. I love voting in person. I love taking my kids with me. But this is my voting insurance. If there's a hurricane, I can still vote. That's something everybody can relate to if they live in Florida. So that's an easy one to overcome. You don't have to vote. You don't have to use it. It's just called voting insurance. We can always tell the story of our new best friend here who almost couldn't vote if she hadn't had a mail ballot. Yeah, it's voting insurance.
My husband hand carried
So I'll talk about all of those things really quickly, the legalities of using a mail ballot. You can turn in 400,000 mail ballot request forms if you want. Request forms. You can turn in as many mail ballot request forms as your little heart desires. Please do. And you can have duplicates. It doesn't affect somebody. If they say, I've already done it, that's okay. Let's just do it again to make sure. Because everybody thinks that they requested a mail ballot because they did a year and a half ago, and it no longer matters. I don't know if I mentioned, again, the Republicans in our state are assholes. Not the voters. Y'all are wonderful people. But you can only turn in 2 mail ballots other than your own. So people they think you can't turn them in, you can turn in request forms. Except for an immediate family member, you can turn in yours, theirs, and 2 more for actual ballots. When you go on, if you have not returned your mail ballot, when you go to vote in person, they're going to say to you, oh, we noticed you have a mail ballot. Did you bring it with you? And if you didn't, they're going to say, no problem, you can still vote. It's a provisional ballot until the end of voting when we make sure you only voted once. I think that's fair. I don't have a problem with that. And if you do have it with you, you cannot take it into the polling place with you. You have to surrender it. If you go to vote in person with your mail ballot, you surrender it and you go vote. Because you can't have 2 live ballots in that room. Make sense? If you don't want to go to your own polling location, you can deliver it to any of our mail ballot intake stations. They don't want to call them drop boxes anymore. And they're at every supervisor of elections and most early voting locations. Okay? Now, why do we want everybody to have a mail ballot request form? 98% of the Democrats with a mail ballot voted in 2024, 50% without them voted. Just doing that will increase turnout so that if, I did this math, if we increase this across the state in every county, if we got mail ballots in 100% of our voters' hands, and even if I said 90, I did it with 90%, and we had the turnout of 98% of those voters voted, we would, and Republicans turn out as they normally do, they're very high turnout voters, then we'd be about 300,000 voters shy across the state. Do you not think we're going to pick up about 300,000 non-party and Republican votes without having to work on them? Right? It's going to happen when we do our part. Now, if we pick those up and we haven't done this enough to increase Democratic turnout, it's not going to change anything. We have to do both. We're going to pick up a lot of non-party and Republican voters this fall. We're going to win a lot more than anybody thought we're going to win a lot more than we lose this fall. I absolutely believe with all my heart. Okay, so how do we do this? So we have these little pieces of paper in the back. What was your first name again? Teresa. I was going to say Suzanne. I was so wrong. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. So Teresa has these nice packets in the back. And let me tell you what this is. So if I told you now, if I gave you a list of all the Democrats in your neighborhood, what would you do with that list? Would you, what? You go knock on their door, say hi, right? And they'd hug you and they'd make you tea and they would you'd have a party, so excited to see you, right? That's what we're doing. We are only talking to Democrats right now. And before anybody says we need to turn out, we do. That's not our job. If you're a member of the Democratic Executive Committee or the Florida Democratic Party, your job is to turn out Democratic voters. Until you have talked to every Democrat, you haven't earned the right to talk to a non-Democrat. Sorry, that sounds really, that's true. So let's talk to all the Democrats and so we can reach into the others. But we're only talking to Democrats now. And we're going to go to their doors and we're going to say, or you can also do this by phone. The most effective way to do this is at the door. Again, it's just data. If y'all have met me in person, you know, thinking that I trust numbers would shock you because I'm like, whoa, all the time. But I do. I trust numbers. And in 2020, I ran a school board race for somebody who was out-registered by 12,000 voters in her district. And we knocked a hell of a lot of doors. And we had an overlap with a mayor's race. And where that mayor's race overlapped, that mayor's candidate did not believe in talking to people at the doors. You'll hear the term canvassing. I never call it canvassing because that sounds scary. We're just knocking on doors of Democratic voters. And she didn't want to do that. Where we did, that mayor's candidate had a 2% increase in every single precinct. 2%, not 2 vote, 2%. And she lost. Our school board candidate won, out-registered by 12,000 voters, won by almost 10 points. And that was 2020. We're going to win a lot this year. So we're going to be talking to Democrats, and this is what we're saying. We're saying, hi, I don't get to pick on Brian. What was your first name? Hi, Claire. Now, if I'm looking for somebody, we have all the information about this person on our phone, right? We have this special app that tells us everything about this person. It tells me this person, this Democratic voter that doesn't have a mail ballot yet, the tool that we're going to tell you how to use, tells me this person is a female, and she's like 60-something. If this Brian comes to the door, I'm like, that's not Claire, right? Because Claire is not this. So, but if she comes down and say, hi, are you Claire? Hi, I'm Pamela. I'm a volunteer with the St. John's Democrats. Keep it simple, direct, who you are, and don't be afraid to be who you are. I love wearing my Democratic t-shirt, and because there's a Ring doorbell. I walk up to the Ring doorbell like this. And they will like come running to the door, right? And if they don't, I talk to the doorbell. I don't care. So I do all the time. I'm probably on a lot of people's home videos. Claire, I'm a volunteer with the St. John's County Democrats. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Great. We're just not talking to voters to, remind them there's an election. How likely are you to support Democrats generally? That's the question, the first question. That's not how it's written because I didn't write it. But that's basically what you're saying. Because what you want to say to her is, Claire, you're going to vote for a Democrat, right? Because if you don't vote for a Democrat, you are a Nazi, you're a fascist, right? Don't do that. You just want to say, how likely are you to support Democrats generally? Because when you do it like that, you get an honest answer. Because they know it's okay to say no. I'd rather have her honestly tell me, I will never vote for a Democrat, than have her lie and tell me she will. Because again, Susanna doesn't need to now spend money chasing that voter down because she said, I will never vote for a Democrat. And Susanna's race is partisan, right? I want to hear that answer. And if she says that, I'll say, that's great, Claire. Have a great day. Your election's in December. But if she says anything at all positive, I'm going to say, great, Susanna. So we're out reminding our voters that having a mail ballot as that voting insurance is so critical. And I've got one right here for you to sign. Paper mail ballot request form. Oh, you can also use QR codes. You can also tell them, go on your computer. Now, I want everybody to tell me, because she's going to say, I'll do it later. Open your phones and tell me where later is on your calendar. Because that's when she's going to do it. Later doesn't ever come, and not by intention, but she's going to close the door, and the dog's throwing up, and the phone is ringing, and she's just going to forget. So I'm going to take away every hurdle. So I've got a paper form right here. Suzanne, Claire, all you have to do is sign it, date it, and write the last 4 of your Social Security number. That's it. Everything else that's on that form you have on your tool. You have her birth date, you have her address. If she wants it delivered to a different address, you can ask her that. But that's really all you need. Just sign it, date it, write the last 4 of your social. Okay? While she's doing that, and if you do it this way, assuming she's going to think this is a good idea, you're not going to get the objections. But if you say, would you like to get a mail ballot request form because we think you're going to get those objections. But I'm like, we've got a form right here for you. It makes it much easier for you to vote. All you need to do is sign it, date it. And by the way, I've driven 3 pink Cadillacs. I know how to sell stuff. So if you put the pen up her nose, she will take it and start signing. It's just here's your magic trick. She takes the pen. If the pen's in her hand, she'll start writing. And then while she's doing that, you're also going to have a prompt here to go to look for her phone number. And you're going to say, which one of these 13 phone numbers is yours? I can tell who's ever used this tool because they laugh. The reality is the tool that people use, people complain about it all the time because the data is only as good as the data we give it. The phone number that's on here, if we haven't had this conversation, is the phone number used to register to vote. And how many of you registered to vote using a landline that doesn't exist anymore? Right? I registered to vote in the state of Florida in 1980. I'm an old lady. So which one of these phone numbers is yours? And why do we want that? Because if she hasn't voted yet by election day, Michelle can spend money and text her and say, you haven't voted yet, your polling location is here. We can only do that if we have a good phone number. And chances are if she's giving me a phone number today, in 2026, it's a cell phone number. And then I can say, oh my gosh, Claire, I don't have an email for you. Y'all say that right now. Because when you ask it like that, when you say it like that, you know what she does? She gives you her email. It's insane. But if I said, can I have an email? No. Right? If I ask you for your email, no. But I don't have an email for you. Her thought is, you should have it, obviously. So she gives you her email and you put it in there, and that allows Michelle to email and say, by the way, you haven't voted yet. And then if you have a newsletter, which I know you guys do, it's great. You could say, would you like to get our newsletter? And those questions are all answered in this tool. Y'all don't leave without a piece of paper in the back. Stop and see Teresa. These are all the stores that we have here are in the Shores, which apparently is a very high density area. I mean, you're going to be doing a huge service to your community by getting mail ballots in their hands. And then the last question is our volunteer question, and it doesn't say, I want you to listen for the word I don't say. So Claire, do you want to help me get Democrats elected? Do you want to help me get Democrats elected? Because why did I not say volunteer? Because that sounds like work. But the reality is, there is no volunteer effort that isn't helping us get Democrats elected. So just say that. And when you put that answer in here, we can now, on the back end, Michelle can run a list of everybody that said yes and get them involved in our work. She can run a list of everybody that said, yes, here's my email, and add that information to our stuff. Like, it makes everything we're doing more effective, not just today, but next year and the following year and the following year. And I want you guys to know we are building infrastructure so we never lose this again. Do y'all feel like confident that that's what we're doing across the state? That's my whole job across the state. I'm actually going to Rhode Island next week to talk to all the state chairs in the country to tell them what we're doing in Florida, because we have to build an infrastructure that outlasts us. And you are critical in doing that. Yes, ma'am.
Everything you said makes a lot of sense, but the one thing that would make me nervous is a stranger or a casual acquaintance is asking for the last 4 digits of the social.
So just try it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just saying, like, we create, and hear me out on this, y'all. Can I be real in this room? I don't want to lose this turf. We create obstacles to even trying by saying, oh, well, it won't work because of this. They won't want to hear this, right? I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this for 6 years. I've been canvassing for 6 years. I love it. And nobody's ever, one person, and I said, you can use your driver's license if you prefer. And they can. But here's the thing, if you tell them that at the door right up front, they're going to think, I don't even know where my driver's license is. I'll do it later. And when is later? Later is never. So try it. And if they give you an objection, then cool, you can use your driver's license. But I'm just, in my lived experience all over the state, including Stark, I've never had an objection. Yes, ma'am.
Elaborate on what she said. I like to, when I can, sometimes I do the knocking on doors on weekends, but I love doing it on weekdays because I have the SOE on speed dial on my phone.
If you're doing it before 5, you can absolutely do that right there. You can call the SOE with that person there, and they can request it.
Directly, and they ask them for the number, and they give it to them.
You can also do this on a phone bank, and you can three-way in with your SOE if you're doing this from home with that person on the phone. But the most effective is that paper. I'll tell you why, because we're building infrastructure, right? When I get this paper, now Michelle can go, or have her office elves go in to our database and say, this person has a mail ballot. Because we won't know until 60 days before the election who does and who doesn't, which makes our job much harder. That's why I like having paper. Plus, I know it's done. I don't, except for phone. If you can do phone, you also know it's done, but you might want to mark that. And you can mark that there's actually a survey question answer that is, I did it with them. But that's what we're doing. It's not just what do we need today. It's what we need for tomorrow. We have to build the party that will outlast us, because if we're all kidnapped by aliens and we've taken all this knowledge with us, our grandchildren pay that price. Anybody else have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is more curiosity. So there's
So am I. So
every 2 years, you have to renew it. Right? Well, this doesn't undermine the Republicans as well. Are they more likely to show up in person?
they are very much more likely to show up in person. You can actually see it. We'll have a huge lead in turnout, and then on election day, that lead gets chopped. And they also, I mean, Trump has actually created distrust of mail ballots, so they don't generally use them. They show up in person. On election day, they don't even show up early. I mean, it's not helping them. That's why they're not, when Trump said cancel mail ballots, DeSantis said no, because they do need mail ballots. Not quite as much as we do, but they do need them. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, you probably already answered this. What's being done now to notify people that they have to get a mail ballot again? Besides that.
So this is the most effective. Don't leave without your. Oh, he's going to get. Yay! Make me happy. Teresa, we got to take her. So what's being done right now? First of all, a lot of supervisors of elections are actually spending some of their budget to notify their voters because it makes their job easier. And honestly, most of our supervisors of elections really care about election integrity. They really do. The Republicans especially, they care about it just as much as we do. That's one thing. The state party is been tireless, not necessarily spending a ton of money doing mailing. We are doing, because we don't have as much money as the other guys do, but we are notifying people on social media, in our emails, in our newsletters, in our phone calls that they need to renew it. Now, what we are going to be doing, we have historically waited to do these conversations at the doors until now when election's exciting. And we have an incentive grant right now. Your county party can get $200. You can get up to $600 for doing this work this month and next month, so $1,200 in total. But now I'm working behind the scenes to make sure we have something to offer counties for doing it starting in January, because it makes it much easier when we're back at the door in January and saying, remember we did this last time? Well, we're back to get you another mail ballot.
Can they not say something on the evening news, the local news? This is not a partisan thing.
They probably could, but they probably won't, because it is a partisan thing. We depend on mail ballots more than the other guys do. I mean, you could ask.
The other thing, I'm sure it hasn't changed, if you use a mail ballot, you can go later on and check to make sure.
You can actually check online. You can follow your mail ballot, whether it's received and when it's counted, as soon as you returned it.
I also received a letter my wife did too about our signature, basically not being valid, things from 5 years ago, etc. If I go online and request a mail-in ballot, do I still need to?
So the question is, will requesting a mail ballot update your signature, is what you're really asking. It should, but you still want to check it. It absolutely should. Requesting a mail ballot is updating your signature, because it's the same thing as to update your signature, you actually fill out a new voter registration form. So it should. And make sure your signature is up to date as you can. Any other questions? Also, as people vote by mail, we can go back and cure those ballots. We get a report every day of people whose ballots were returned to them for whatever reason, and we can go to those homes and get their affidavit signed so that their ballot counts. I am so grateful that you all came out to see Alex and therefore got stuck with me. I'm so grateful because I know Michelle is an amazing chair. I know what this county is building. I love that every time I come, I see new faces. And by the way, when you're seeing those faces that you don't see in this room, the voters under 50 or minority voters, ask them to come help you build a party that represents them better. If they feel like they're not represented in this room, then ask them to come build one that doesn't let them down. And they do that by doing this work at the doors. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night. And thank you, Michelle. I love